Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hiba Naim Ali. I'm a PhD candidate at the Hiller School of Social Policy and Management, Brandeis University, and I'm thrilled to be part of the Innovation in Family Caregiving in the Community session. Um, Looking forward actually to share with you the results of our research on how the two constructs of RC, communication and relationship, has been found to be associated with the well-being of family caregiver. But first, I would like to thank my mentor, Margie Erickson Warfield, for her assistance and guidance through the analysis and the formulation of these results. At the beginning, I would like to give you a little bit of introduction on the setting of the waiver of our study. So self-directed waiver or participant-directed waiver is a growing service model that supports people with disability who have opted to live in the community rather than living in a specialized care institution. The waiver program itself offers many services, and it actually varies based on the state and the level of funding the program has. But the main highlight service that is consistent across all the states has been the ability to pay a family member to provide care for the consumer, the waiver program participant. In our study, we mainly focus on this sample group, and we have surveyed 121 paid family caregivers who are enrolled and getting paid in a southeastern state. Our sample constitute mainly parents, almost 49% of our sample, and more than a third of our sample have been children taking care of their parents and elder or disabled parents. Others have been grandchildren taking care of their grandparents, siblings, cousins, nieces, nephews, spouses. The waiver program processes the services through a network of supports. Mainly, they are divided into three major work groups. The first is service facilitator, who is a state representative randomly assigned to the family and is responsible to assess the needs, first the eligibility of the consumer, and the amount of hours allocated or given to him as services that he can dispense or hire people to take care of him, hire others to take care of him. And the other major work groups that coordinate and support the family members and the consumer has been the employer of record, who act as the legal representative on behalf of the consumer. So making sure that the hours have been the care is actually implemented and the hours have been given, and to finalize and process any of the paperwork and submit them to the financial management service, who act as an accounting service. So they are practically processing the payment and translate those hours into a biweekly check. In our study, we aim to assess the impact of RC on the well-being outcomes for the family caregiver, their life satisfaction, mental and financial well-being. In our survey, we asked the participants about their socio-demographic characteristic, the RC tool, and the outcome variables, and other covariables like the level of participation in the waiver program, family cohesion index. Our sample on average are around 48 years old. They are mainly female. 90% of them have been female, which is actually expected since culturally and socially female are the main caregiver. About 56% of our sample reported to be white Caucasian. About 41% of our sample had college degree or higher. 44% of our sample received formal medical training. Almost 50% of our sample reported to have other paid job other than being a paid caregiver. More than 2/3 of our sample, about 70% of our sample, reported to be living with the participant, with the waiver participant, the consumer in the same household. And finally, we asked the participants to report on family cohesion scale, which is practically an agreement scale that measures the agreement level between family members. The range itself of the score range on average from 10 to 50, and the mean score across all our participants is 41, which indicates that the majority of our families have reported moderate to high family cohesion. On average, the caregiver in our sample have spent about 5 years in the program, so they are relatively experienced. On average, they're getting paid about 41 hours for care in a given week, but they reported more hours of unpaid giving care to their loved one, their family member. And among those who are burdened by those unpaid, unaccounted hours have been parents of the participant. They reported significantly higher hours, higher unpaid hours, and those who are living in the same household as the consumer have also reported statistically significant higher, giving higher unpaid hours relatively or in comparison to other caregiver. The RC survey actually showed us that the family caregiver RC index is the highest. So the relationship between the family caregiver and other caregiver is extremely high, it's 4.38, which is RC internal, followed by the RC with the employer of record, it's 4.37 on average. Then the service facilitator is 4.19, and finally the financial management services, the RC index have been 3.7, which is like moderate strength, which is actually expected since the employer of record is often another family member or sometimes a consumer when he or she's mental capability is fit to manage the services and fill in the paperwork. Only 10% of our caregivers have noted that their employer of record is a friend or a lawyer. Before we proceeding to the regression analysis for the impact of RC, we had in our theory that we actually hypothesized that there will be a distinct impact of between communication and relationship, the two distinct impact between the two construct of RC. So RC theoretically have presented as a two construct tool where communication is measured by the frequency of communication, the timeliness, the accuracy, and the problem solving, while the relationship is measured by shared goals, shared knowledge, and mutual respect. Most of the RC published studies have mainly conducted exploratory factor analysis, which is mainly aimed to explore a number of factors for a survey tool that is not been hypothesized, and usually the result is have been uniformly one factor. Confirmatory factor analysis actually asks different questions. It asks about, it asks to confirm a theory or confirm that your personal data, your personal sample matches that has have been tested before or during the validation of the survey tool. But since in our hypothesis, we hypothesize actually that perhaps the communication between the family caregiver and the support work groups and support network is much stronger than the relationship, which takes time to build the agreement on shared knowledge and shared goals and mutual respect. It takes more time, and especially with the high turnover of the service facilitator and the nature of the financial management service, which is an online or phone customer service, we have expected there will be a distinct impact for the communication construct versus the relationship construct. And we went on and tested this as part of our hypothesis, and we wanted to see if actually this hypothesis is valid. So before we start, we run the exploratory factor analysis, and similar to other RC studies, we found that the RC actually load into one factor with eigenvalue of 3.05, and you can see that the 7th dimension highly load into one factor as well, except frequency, which has a uniqueness level of 0.9, which is expected because the frequency of communication has been determined through the design of the policy, because the caregiver have been paid bi-weekly. So they have been told how frequent they should interact with each other instead of based on their needs. But then we went on and went and run the confirmatory factor analysis, because we wanted to test if our hypothesized research question, that is communication and relationship, actually have a distinct impact on the well-being. So as you can see, we had used the theory of RC, where the latent variable communication constituting frequency, timeliness, and accuracy and problem solving on one hand, and relationship, which is constituted of shared goal, shared knowledge, and mutual respect, is another latent variable for it. And as you can see, after running the CFA, we found that is actually affirmed this hypothesis, which is this tool is actually is based on two separate constructs that are highly correlated. So as you can see here, that the chi-square was found non-significant, was 0.3, which signify that our null hypothesis that the RC is constructed of two separate constructs is actually valid. It's not by chance, and it's actually, yes, it's not by chance. And other goodness of field statistics have showed a close fit or an excellent fit model having two constructs, the two construct RC and relationship, better suited to explain the data collected. So here we represented the data as a comparison between four models. The first model, we didn't put any of the RC index or any of its subscales, the newly constructed subscales, the communication and relationship. And you can see that only family cohesion have been positively correlated with life satisfaction. And when we run the RC total index by itself, we didn't see any impact on the life satisfaction. But as expected, as hypothesized, we can see that the communication index is positive, has a positive significant impact on life satisfaction of family caregiver. And it also has the highest adjusted R-square, while the relationship index was not significant. And when we tried to predict or explain the variability in the mental well-being for family caregiver, we found that there are multiple variables that actually predict the mental well-being and has a positive effect on it, like the participant age and family cohesion, while being white or having a college degree or higher has a negative effect on the mental well-being. And you can see that the communication index as well, so similarly to the life satisfaction, having better communication with the program supports has a positive statistically significant impact on the mental well-being of family caregiver. Finally, the financial well-being. So the financial well-being is found to be closely predicted by the relationship and the communication with the program support, which is actually a very interesting findings, because we found that those caregivers who have a positive communication with the supports tend to report better in terms of being doing better financially or having less financial burden by the caregiving duties. Finally, we would like to say that it was actually a challenge doing the analysis for such a diverse sample of family caregiver. And RC is found to be has a significant positive impact on caregiver well-being. And by analyzing the two subscale in addition to the RC index, we now have more deeper additional insight that highlighted the role and the significance of the communication construct and how well, especially in a sample like ours, where the service facilitator, two of our three tested work groups is actually have high turnover, and like the financial management service and the service facilitator service facilitator, the state representative is actually have high turnover. You can see that in this sample, communication is actually our leading, has a leading impact on the well-being of the family caregiver or our sample. So in conclusion, we would recommend to test the RC subscale in addition to the RC index to better understand the magnitude of impact and association of RC to your outcome variables. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward for your questions. Thank you.